Hey everyone, it's Norm Farrar, aka the Beard Guy here, and welcome to another Lunch with Norm, the Amazon FBA and e-commerce podcast. Okay, today we're going to be talking about expanding your Amazon brand into Latin America. So, what does that e-commerce? What does that look like? What does the landscape look like in Latin America? What are the largest e-commerce marketplaces in Latin America? And what are the challenges for foreign brands getting into Latin America? All right, this is Lunch with Norm, the Amazon FBA and e-commerce podcast.
Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm.
All right, like I said, today we're talking about expanding your Amazon brand into Latin America. Our guest is the entrepreneur and expert in e-commerce and digital marketing. He co-founded AMZ Advisors with his two partners in 2015, which has generated over $500 million in sales for its clients. He and his AMZ team also operate AMZ courses, educating Amazon sellers on how to maximize their sales on the platform, and helps brands expand into Latin America. So today's first-time guest is Mike Begg. Anyways, before we get to Mike, let's go to a sponsor.
If you're selling on Amazon in 2022, you know how important it is to stand out from your competition. Let Hono Worldwide lend a helping hand with your product innovation to outcompete your competition online. That's right. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the success of your newly innovative product while Hono handles all the work. Visit honoworldwide.com for more information. That's Honu, Honu, worldwide.com, or email savings@honoworldwide.com.
All right, we're back. Where is Mr. Kelsey?
It's me. Hello. Welcome everyone to the show. It's going to be a good one. I want to say a quick shout out to Claudia, Ola from Calgary, my Beardo amigos. Yes, it's good to see everyone. Good to see the Beard Nation joining us. This is a live podcast, so if you have questions, comments, opinions, let us know in the comment section. We also have a great giveaway today as well that we'll be announcing a little bit later on in the show. And before we get started, of course, we want to smash those like buttons. Give us the thumbs up on social media, whether you're watching from Facebook or YouTube. Make sure you subscribe or follow us so you don't miss an episode. And join our Facebook group, Lunch with Norm, Amazon FBA, and e-commerce collective. You can find the links in the descriptions of the episode you're watching. Also, we're doing a special webinar tomorrow, actually, at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and that's going to be with Vance Lee. So if you're looking to sell $50,000 to $200,000 of pre-orders before spending $1 on inventory, you can check out this free webinar that I'm going to be posting in the comment section shortly. So we've got, I'm pretty excited about this webinar. It's going to be good. It's one of the first ones we're doing, and we're hoping to do more of these. But yeah, good to see Christine as well. Hope your week is going well as well, Christine, and enjoying your prizes from the Wheel of Kelsey. And I think we're good to go.
Okay, so I have to apologize. I'm the one running late, not Kelsey. I got caught up. Leo Scovio was doing a really incredible presentation, and I just got caught up in it. It was something that I had no clue. Like, he was just dropping nuggets. And that's one of the reasons why I'm at the BDSS, because, just so far, the presentations have been really awesome. And I got to give a shout out to Sellers Funding, because look what they're giving away.
Hey, very
cigar
nice.
cutters.
That's perfect. It's like
cigar
they
cutters.
know you.
Exactly. So, they're my new BFFs or whatever. Yeah, that's what it is, right, Kels?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Best friends forever. That's it. Anyway, I think that's probably it. I was talking to Kevin also about the crowdfunding, and he thought, that event is going to be fantastic as well. So it was good to hear. It's not just us that's thinking it's going to be awesome, and this isn't anything new, by the way. It's been around for quite some time, but it's just going to give our community just another option to do and fund, you need cash flow. And this is just a great way to get cash flow.
All right, so I'm going to be dropping that link right now. You can join it. You can sign up. It's just a quick Google form right here, and that's that. So I think that's about it for me, and we can get started.
All right. So if you have any questions, just throw them over into the comment section and sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, enjoy the show, and welcome Mike.
Hey, Norm, how are you doing?
Good. We really didn't have a chance to talk before the podcast.
It's okay.
Oh man. Talk about, Kelsey was actually texting me going, "Where are you?"
It's okay. I had a chance to catch up with Kelsey, but it's good seeing you again after Evo Latam. So I'm glad I'm able to be here today speaking with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad we've got a great topic today, and that's going back to Mexico. So, Latin America. People ask me whether I'm doing anything in Mexico. And I have to tell you, I don't know if you remember the guy that was there for the packaging.
Which one?
There was I believe there was only one guy that was there for packaging. He was outstanding. And I've given him a couple of quotes. I haven't used them yet, but his pricing and his quotes have been fantastic. So, and then there was a lady just down where the lunch was served, selling soaps.
Yep.
And I'm looking at her business as well to do some business with her. But anyways, it was great. It was fantastic.
Yeah, there were some great providers there, lots of manufacturers, lots of opportunities for people. So it's really interesting to talk with everyone. I don't think I had a chance to speak with the packaging guy, but a lot of other people I was speaking with.
Yeah, there was 80 people there, and I just thought there were going to be a lot of, products. And I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what to expect. Like that, I thought, okay, we're going to see some ceramics. But when I started seeing some of these other products, and even there was another packaging company there, but it was more laser cut EVA foams to put within your packaging.
Yeah.
So very, very good. But anyways, what are your thoughts right now in Latin America, like dealing with Latin America?
I mean, I think Latin America presents a massive opportunity. I'm a seller myself. I work with a lot of other brands that are selling in the US and in Latin America and other markets. And the common thread between everyone has been challenges over the past 2 years, dealing with manufacturing in China and dealing with logistics, getting products from China. And that's something I personally haven't dealt with. I mean, I do my manufacturing here in Mexico. I work with a lot of providers here in Mexico. And just the proximity to the US makes it extremely attractive, I think, for myself and for other sellers. The costs are competitive in some categories. I mean, electronics, you're not going to beat China no matter where in the world you're manufacturing. But I mean, I think categories like you said, glass, ceramics, products like that, there's a lot of good opportunities here in Mexico specifically, and even beyond in other parts of Latin America. But when it comes to the actual selling side, I mean, I think Latin America is the next big market in general. I mean, obviously it's more than one country, but when we look at how fast Brazil is growing, how fast Mexico is growing compared to a lot of the other markets in the world, it makes a ton of sense to start focusing on those marketplaces now.
Yeah, so why don't we take a look at what does the marketplace look like right now for e-commerce?
Yeah. So when we talk about Latin America, the two biggest ones are Brazil and Mexico. And Brazil is by far the largest. It's about 57% of the total e-commerce sales in Latin America. Mexico is about 20%. So it's significantly smaller, but it's still much larger compared to some of the other marketplaces. I think Colombia is in third place at about 7%. So, that's Mexico still 3 times the size of Colombia, which is good to know. Total e-commerce sales in Latin America is given a range anywhere from about $200 to $250 billion a year, which is pretty significant, especially when we think about Brazil having more than 50% of that. So you're looking at 100 billion plus per year in e-commerce sales. So the market is very large and it's growing very fast. Brazil is the second fastest growing marketplace in the world. Mexico is the 5th fastest e-commerce market in the world. And when we look at some of the largest markets of sales as a percentage of retail sales, Brazil and Mexico are about 11 and 12. So they're just outside the top 10. And I think as people continue to move into e-commerce in Latin America, more opportunities exist for products, those sales numbers are going to keep increasing. And we're probably going to see a larger percentage of total retail sales be attributed to e-commerce in Latin America.
Wow. Just curious, the number one market, the fastest growing, is that Australia?
The fastest growing, I think, in 2021 was India. I think
India.
That was number 1.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Mexico was number 5. Brazil was number 2. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Got it. What are the best categories? Like, if you had to pick top 5 categories, what would it be?
So it's tough to say exactly because it's different in every country. I think there's 1 or 2 categories that are pretty consistent across every country. Electronics is really good, and supplements and food products are really good as well. There's a lot of demand for that type of stuff in those countries. Electronics specifically because Latin America in general and Latin American countries are very protectionist. So they actually have a lot of policies in place that are preventing units or orders from China to be shipped directly into their country. So that can actually make foreign electronic brands more competitive in Latin America compared to Chinese brands. So I think there's a lot of demand for electronic goods because of this ban on China. And there's a lot of opportunities for foreign electronic brands outside of China to sell in Latin America in general. Okay,
so that's electronics.
Yeah, I would say that. Supplements is also a big one. When we talk about the supplement market in the US, it's massive. Most supplement brands focus on the US because the lifetime customer value of a consumer is higher in the US. They have more dollars to spend on supplements, and they're more likely to get purchasing the same product over and over. But there is a lot of demand for these products in Latin America as well. It's just that they don't have access to the same amount of brands. Household name brands that we might have in the US or in Canada for that matter. They're not here. They're not in Mexico. They're not in Brazil. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but there's a lot of demand for those products, which I think is the more important thing.
Right. So after supplements, what do you think? Would it be pet products? Would it be beauty products?
Pet products are good as well. And once we get past that, we're really starting to look more specific on country by country basis. Like I said, those were 2 of the broader ones that most of the marketplaces shared in general. Mm-hmm. When we start getting past those, it's definitely specific based on countries. I know pet products do well in Mexico. They do well in Brazil. I know food products do well in Mexico and Brazil. So those types of products are performing really well in those marketplaces.
When you're looking at the let's say the Brazil market, Mexico market, and you wanted to invest in an average brand, so bringing your brand over, I don't know what it'll be. Let's just take an average brand.
Yeah.
What kind of expected sales could you get? Like, what type of bump could you get in your sales based off of your .com?
Yeah, so I mean, the market's smaller than the US.
Yeah.
That's a given. But for example, we brought some pet supply brands that were doing a couple $100,000 a month in the US, and they're already seeing within 3 to 4 months about $50,000 to $60,000 in sales in Brazil specifically, and in Mexico about another $10,000 to $15,000 in sales. So again, it's really category specific, but those categories that there's a lot of demand for, those brands can come in and start seeing a pretty big pickup right away. Like for example, another brand that's one of the larger supplement brands in the US, Goli apple cider vinegar.
Sure.
Gummies. They're also available in Mexico, Brazil, and they do a significant amount of sales volume. It's in the US, I think they're doing a couple million a month. In Mexico, it's not that high, but it's still it might be 100,000 or more a month in sales that they're doing. So there's some brands that can come in and see a pretty significant boost in their sales just from Amazon, but there's also other marketplaces out there that a lot of these brands can get into and that a lot of customers in Latin America are shopping on outside of Amazon.
So I know in Canada, if you try to market into the Toronto area and then take the same marketing concept and bring it over to Montreal, it's like black and white. You know, Montreal's just got a whole different vibe to it.
Yeah.
Now, if you do that, if you've got this U.S. based, you know, product and you're bringing it to Mexico and you're bringing it over to Brazil, do you have to rebrand or repackage, other than language, of course?
Yeah, I mean, the repackaging, there's going to be essentially FDA requirements, like the product has to be in the native language, so Spanish or Brazil.
Yep.
But I would, or Portuguese, excuse me.
Portuguese, yeah.
But what I would say is that you don't really need to change your branding all that much. There's, especially between Mexico and the US, the culture of consumerism is pretty similar. I mean, I think there are 60 million Spanish speakers in the US, and about 40% of those are Mexican. And a lot of them, you know, come to the US, come back to Mexico. So Mexico and US have seen a lot of assimilation when it comes to shopping culture. And I think because of that, you really don't need to change much between those two. Brazil, I would also argue that you really don't need to change much either. When we look at Brazilian consumers, about 41% of Brazilian consumers would prefer to buy a foreign product than a domestic made product. So there's a preference, it's almost 50-50 between buying foreign goods from Brazil. So, I mean, a lot of that comes with the foreign brand, the foreign branding, the foreign marketing strategies, the brand recognition a lot of times of how they're known around the world. So I think in a way, you really don't need to change your branding all that much to get into the marketplaces. It's more of, you know, the legal stuff, like how can I deal with, you know, nutritional facts for each marketplace? How do I deal with the language differences and things like that? Those are the main hurdles you're going to deal with when it comes to your product and actually selling in the marketplaces.
Yeah, I guess, you know, there's a bunch of little things that you have to look at. And I've also heard it said that, oh, well, they're poor countries, so nobody's going to buy my product. Well, there's a lot of people in Mexico City.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that make a lot more money than me in Mexico City. So they'd be easy, you know, if they want to buy a $10 bar of soap, go for it. You know, it's not going to be a big deal. But there are different compliance issues, right, that you have to check out depending on what country you go into?
Exactly. And that's one of the biggest hurdles of Latin America is, number one, dealing with the compliance issues. Number two, just dealing with bureaucracy in Latin America in general. For example, US, we have the FDA for supplements and food products. In Mexico, it's called COFEPRIS. And in Brazil, it's called Anvisa, I believe. Each of them have their own requirements. You got to make sure that your products are registered before bringing the product into the country. Now, one of the ways that a lot of people have been getting around some of these requirements is using programs like North American Remote Fulfillment, NARF.
Yeah.
And NARF actually isn't legal. You can't legally ship a product from the US to Mexico, a supplement product that's not registered with COFEPRIS in Mexico. Customs doesn't always catch it, but it's not actually legal to do that. And it's a loophole that a lot of sellers are using that, you know, maybe it won't get closed, maybe it will. But it's definitely not following the correct compliance that you need to for your brand in Mexico and in Brazil as well.
So just in case people don't know, any of the listeners don't know what NARF is, can you just explain that?
Sure. So NARF is North American Remote Fulfillment, and that gives you the option to ship FBA inventory to other countries or other marketplaces in North America. So for example, let's say you have your inventory in the US and you want to sell in both Canada, Mexico, and Brazil. You can set up NARF to have your listings live in those marketplaces. And if you get an order in those marketplaces, Amazon will just fulfill it from your US inventory. One of the challenges with that, especially from the consumer side, is, well, not so much with Canada, but with Mexico, at least in Brazil, is that the end consumer is going to have to pay additional taxes. So, you know, they have IVA, they have import tariffs, they have, in Brazil, it's called IPI. There's a lot of other taxes that come in place here that are going to be passed on to the end consumer through the NARF program that the sellers aren't always aware of, and it actually makes their products more expensive. And in my opinion, it can hurt the customer experience.
Yeah.
But essentially, that's how the NARF program works. You can fulfill inventory from the US to any other Amazon marketplace in North America and even South America at this point.
Okay. I'm just curious if any of the listeners are selling their products in Mexico or in Brazil. I know there's a couple of Amazon. Amazon's going to be opening up the doors in Colombia very shortly, and I believe it's Chile.
Chile, yeah.
Yeah, soon. But if anybody is selling over there, what are your experiences? Just let us know. And just kind of curious, are you planning on selling in the Latin American countries in the next year? We're already at the bottom of the hour because I was so late. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about the giveaway. You've got a great giveaway today. Why don't you explain what it is?
Yeah. So, like I said, my company is AMZ Advisors. What we do is we help brands navigate a lot of these issues of getting into Latin America. So what we're going to be giving away is free consultations on how to deal with getting your products into Mexico, or in Brazil, figuring out the best ways to deal with a lot of the logistical hurdles and the legal issues that you might run into. So we can really give you an in-depth view on what it will look like to take your brand into some of these marketplaces.
Okay, so Kelsey, where are you?
Yes.
I might as well already give it to Christine. Might as well.
She's been on a roll.
We can run the wheel of Kelsey, but we already know it's Christine. Anyways, so what's going to be the mystery word today?
All right, we'll keep it nice and easy. Hashtag Mexico. So if you're new to the podcast, this is how you enter. You have to write hashtag Wheel of Kelsey and hashtag Mexico in the comment section. So you can see Chad already doing that. So you'll be entered. If you tag two people, that's if you put the little @ sign and you put two people's names down, you get an extra entry. So this is for consultation with Mike for your brand market fit in Latin America. So great prize. We're going to be announcing it at the end of the episode. We're going to spin our wheel, and we'll see who the winner is. And I think that's it.
Christine, you can enter. you or Richard. So anyways, it would be good just to get a consult. Just to understand the marketplace. So very valuable. Got Near in there. Perfect. All right, so let's run a sponsor or a commercial, our next commercial.
A big thank you to our sponsor, Post Purchase Pro, the only complete A to Z done for you real email and text marketing service built specifically for Amazon sellers. My friends Sean Hart and Seth Stevens co-founded Post Purchase Pro after launching over 1,000 successful private labeled products, growing 53 brands, and get this, exiting 17 businesses. Post Purchase Pro creates all of your digital assets 100% for you, from marketing inserts, complete sales funnels, email follow-up sequences, and weekly email promotions. They manage and optimize everything for you to drive more sales, get higher ranking, and receive more reviews on Amazon. So check out Post Purchase Pro now to see if you too will see enormous growth like their nearly 500 clients worldwide. That's Post Purchase Pro at postpurchasepro.com/lunch.
Okay, so one of the other things I was wondering, when you're on Amazon, right now what I try to do is I try to drive traffic over to my website. So I'll have the insert, I'll have it, drive it over, and then I'll also try to do email campaigns and all that other stuff. Mm-hmm. If I'm repackaging and I'm sending over the product in a Spanish or Portuguese box, I redo the inserts. Do you recommend redoing a website?
I think it depends on what you're using for your website. I mean, for myself, I use Shopify. Yep. So, I mean, the translation functions are there. I would say that it's probably good setting up the landing page in the local language. I think if they want to purchase the product from the website after that, they can more or less navigate their way to figure out what they need to do with the translate function on. But yeah, I would say having a landing page within your website for each, specific to each marketplace, specific to the language, that you're going to be targeting consumers in. I think that's a really good idea. And yeah, it's probably something I would be doing.
Yeah, and if you're going to do that, don't go to Google Translate.
Yes, that's another good point. Translations they're different. Brazilian Portuguese is very different than Portuguese. European Portuguese, Latin American Spanish is very different than Spanish in Spain. So, and even Latin American Spanish is different between Mexico and Colombia, or Mexico and Chile, or Mexico and Argentina, for example. So you really need to have local translators to be doing your copywriting for you in each of those marketplaces.
Yeah, it's so important. And the other thing too, you start thinking about domain names. I almost made the mistake, I guess. I did make the mistake in Japan. I made a really bad mistake in Japan. So I went and I bought my name. It has soap in it, and I guess it was the wrong name, right?
Yeah.
So what soap means, at least the version I made in Japanese, was brothel. So all of a sudden, tons of traffic. It was a great thing, but guys looking for a brothel ended up at my product page. And I got tons of traffic that way. So if you can make that kind of mistake, it's not that bad all the time. But yeah. So, but be careful when you're doing this. Google Translate, or if you think you've got the right one, the right name. I made that huge mistake, and luckily it turned out okay. But it's very easy to do, and that's for anything. If you're writing a press release, or if you're doing any content, make sure it's proofed. Like translation companies, like Yana's been on here a bunch. They're not that expensive, but they are expensive if you mess it up. You come off looking really stupid.
And honestly, like companies of any size make that mistake. I mean, the classic example is Chevy with the Chevy Nova in Latin America. Nova means it doesn't work, it doesn't go. So that's another classic example. It really doesn't matter how big or small your business is. If you're not very thorough and you're not really checking everything to make sure it's correct, you can run into mistakes like that. So
that happened with the Kona car, the Hyundai Kona.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about that one. Anyways, same sort of thing. It meant something completely different, so they had to change it. I forget which country it was, to the Kauai instead of the Kona.
Okay.
But it's hilarious. And that just happened, by the way. So huge companies can make that problem. So let's talk about different platforms. You got an Amazon platform. Are there any other platforms that you'd be looking at?
Yes. So I think in Latin America, Amazon is growing. It's not necessarily the biggest market, the biggest platform in each marketplace, though. So for here, example, in Mexico, where I am, about 50%, it's split about 50-50 between Mercado Libre and Amazon for the market size. Amazon may have just taken them over by a little bit this past year. But there's a lot of consumers on Mercado Libre, and the way that the Mercado Libre platform works is completely different than the way that the Amazon platform works. So it's a little bit of a learning curve for sellers that are going to start managing these platforms by themselves, and what the differences are and how to get across them. In Brazil, for example, Amazon's actually the third largest platform. There's two platforms ahead of it. One of them is Mercado Libre, which is Mercado Libre in Portuguese.
Yep.
And Lojas Americanas is the second largest marketplace, and that's essentially a department store that moved into e-commerce, and they've actually done a good job at dominating a lot of e-commerce sales in Brazil. But there's even other platforms where a lot of sales are occurring. Casa Bahia is another one. So Brazil is really a country where there's multiple marketplaces that you need to be focused on outside of just Amazon to really be able to benefit from having your brand there.
Now, do you see a lot of mistakes, or what are the common mistakes? Let's put it that way.
The common mistakes, one of them we already talked about was obviously language differences.
Yeah.
Another mistake, in my opinion, is, the way I always sell, the way I always focus on helping my clients sell, is focusing on the customer experience first. Because if your customer doesn't have a good experience, it's going to lead to bad reviews. It's going to lead, if you have a CPG good where you're trying to acquire new customers, it's going to lead to customer churn faster than anything. And for Latin America, I think the NARF program is actually one of the worst customer experiences you can have. I kind of said that before, but I didn't really explain why. And the reason why is because of customs in these countries. So in Mexico, depending on the product, your order can get held up in customs. If you're shipping, this is a good one. If you're shipping with U.S. Postal Service in the U.S. to Mexico, it could take months for your product to arrive.
What?
So, oh yeah, U.S. Postal Service you can't use because USPS works with Mexico's national mail provider. It's called Correos Mexico. And Correos Mexico is terrible. They literally won't deliver anything. So things get lost. The other big issue is that tracking IDs don't switch if you're using USPS. So coming forward from the US to Mexico, your tracking ID won't be scanned in Mexico. So you have no update on where the product is. When you think about all these challenges, it's the customer being like, well, I bought this, where is it? I paid for it. It hasn't gotten here. Brazil, same challenge. I mean, it can take up to 3 weeks for a product to clear customs in Brazil. So if you're shipping from outside of the country into those marketplaces, you could have customers that are canceling orders with a product already en route, asking for refunds before the product has arrived. So not only do you run the risk of losing the inventory, losing the unit that you sent, but also having to pay the customer back their money for what they paid. So you're out twice. And that's one of the biggest challenges. And I think one of the worst things about the NARF program is it doesn't really consider that. I mean, it makes it easy for brands from the US and from Canada to sell into these marketplaces, but it's really just helping Amazon because they're making the FBA fees, they're making the referral fees. It's not really thinking what the end consumer is doing. It's not really thinking of the best option for the actual seller's ID.
Okay, sorry about that. I had something in my throat.
It's all good. I hope you're okay.
Oh yeah, I'm fine now. I'll start coughing again. Okay, so we've talked about that. For any of the listeners, we've got Mike here. If you are interested or if you have any questions about moving into the Latin American market, please let us know. I see that there's 2 questions there. If we can get a couple more in, that would be fantastic. Okay, so let's see. I guess another thing I was thinking about for your service, you're talking about your clients. Are you helping them get onto these other platforms as well?
Yes, we're helping them with Mercado Libre in Mexico, and we're going to be helping them with Lojas Americanas and Mercado Libre in Brazil. That is a little bit delayed, mainly because of some other bureaucratic issues dealing in Brazil. When we talk about, this is another thing just to mention quickly, when we talk about setting up a business in the US, it's extremely easy. It's much more difficult here in Mexico and even more difficult in Brazil. You can get a business, a bank account, everything in the US in maybe 2 to 3 weeks, have everything set up. Mexico takes about 4 to 5 months. Brazil can take 12 to 18 months to get a business set up there. So if you're going to go that route and go with a local subsidiary, just be ready that you're going to have a lot of pain, a lot of headaches from the regulators when you're going through the entire business setup. I mean, even getting a bank account can be a significant headache.
You're talking strictly Brazil, right?
A bank account in Mexico is also a pain, but Brazil, it can take up to 12 to 18 months to get a business. Right here, as a foreigner in Mexico, it took me about 4 to 5 months.
Wow. And what about trademarks? Do you need to trademark in Latin America to protect yourself?
It's a good idea. There definitely is a big culture of knockoff products in Latin America, probably not as big as what we see in China.
Yeah.
And it's also, but it's more specific towards typically like sports memorabilia or sports teams or sporting goods and things like that. I haven't seen it as much with actual physical products or other physical brands. Apparel, I guess you see it with apparel in general. I guess that's what I'm talking about with sports stuff. You'll see knockoff Louis Vuitton, knockoff Gucci, like goods like that. But for the average seller, I don't think it's as big of an issue. And I don't think it's something you really need to worry about too much. The US PTO trademark should work for brand registry in those marketplaces as well. So it shouldn't cause you any issues.
I just like the idea that even Amazon, they're expanding out. And when you see that, okay, they're in Brazil, they're in Mexico right now, they must be doing, a pretty good job if they're willing to invest in Chile and Colombia. I think those will be really great markets too, for especially beauty. Beauty in Colombia, I think that'll be a huge market. Pets in Colombia, I think, will be a big market.
Yep.
These are things that are just, extra dollars in your jeans. If you can do it yourself, great. For me, and I don't touch it, so like I am very unbiased about this. But when it comes to having somebody do it for me, I would have somebody do it for you. That somebody that already, like your agency, that already knows the ins and outs. Everybody listening, I guarantee, even near the expert of everything, I guarantee we all had to go through paying our Amazon tax. And I don't know, maybe you can clarify this, but there's definitely areas that if you don't know the ins and outs, you can get messed up bad. And I don't know if there's anything in particular. We know about the problems of, you know what, I'm playing with this stupid cigar cutter. It's like a fidget spinner,
Just don't lose a finger.
It's my fidget spinner. But anyways, there's a lot of areas within the infrastructure and also just the actual setup, the cultural differences. We got to get into that too. But if we go with an agency, they can take that on and help you out. So my question is, how do you find the right agency? What questions would you ask that agency?
That's a tough one. I think there's a lot of different questions you could really be asking there. And I mean, it starts with just some of the compliance issues. If they don't really understand the logistical challenges of each marketplace, if they can't give you clear answers on, how FBA compares to FBM, how import challenges for my product from the US to Mexico, US to Brazil, China to South America, China to Latin America, wherever. If they can't give you clear answers on that, they probably don't have a good enough understanding of what actually is happening in the marketplace. So those are probably the first things that I would be looking for. When it comes to advertising and marketing the products, it's really not that different between, Amazon US, Amazon Mexico, Amazon Brazil. I mean, the functionality is the same. You have access to different advertising tools, which is probably the only main difference. But if they don't have experience dealing with some of the other marketplaces like Mercado Libre, Lojas Americanas, Casa Bahia in Brazil and in Mexico, you're missing out on a good size of the market. Like I said, I mean, Amazon in Brazil is the third or fourth largest. I think they only have 17% of e-commerce sales. Mercado Libre has something like 60% of e-commerce sales in Brazil. In Mexico, it's closer split, even. But still, you're missing out on at least half of the market if you don't know how to do Mercado Libre. So I would ask them what their familiarity is with the other platforms, how the other platforms work. And yeah, I think those are probably the questions that would really help you narrow out who's the right fit for you and who's not.
Okay, very good. Kels, I see that we have 5 questions.
Yeah, some of them we've touched on before, so we can just briefly go through them. So from Christine's question, I heard it was difficult to start a business in Brazil. Is that true?
Yes, it's very difficult. So a couple of the things you need is you need a local business partner in Brazil. And there's a variety of ways you can achieve that. There's law firms you can work with. But for me, it's always the question I always have looking at those situations is, who am I getting into business with? What's their reputation? Do they have any other potential issues in Brazil or in Mexico for this, whatever the case is? Like in the US, we wouldn't, I know I wouldn't, I don't know about you, Norm, I wouldn't start a business with someone I don't really know, because I become liable for a lot of their responsibilities, some of the other things. I don't know the Brazilian legal system, and I don't know what I'm responsible for their mistakes. So that's one area that I'm not very comfortable in, and I wouldn't necessarily be super interested in pushing that type of service to someone. Beyond that, like I said, a lot of it's just the business setup. You're looking at, I think it's about 2 to 3 months just to do the formation documents for the business. Another few months just to get things through the regulators or the agencies there in Brazil. I mean, in total, it can take, like I said, 12 to 18 months to have a business there. So if you're going to make the investment in starting in a business in Brazil, it's a long-term investment. Like, you're thinking beyond this year, you're thinking beyond right now. I know the Brazilian market's going to continue to grow. I know that I need my products to be there in Brazil, and I'm going to make this investment now, knowing that I'm not going to see the payoff in it right now. I might see it in the future.
It looks like Christine has a follow-up to that, Kels.
Okay. About how much does it cost to get started in Brazil and Mexico?
In Mexico, from my own experience, it's cost about $3,000 to set up a business, mainly because of lawyer fees and notary fees and translating documents. The other thing you need to consider is that you're going to need notarized documents from the U.S. And apostille documents from the U.S. sent to some of these countries to do the business formation and get things approved. So that's another cost you have. In Brazil, I don't remember the most recent quote I saw. I know it's a couple $1,000s as well. I think it's probably about $5,000 from what I remember to get a business set up there. So it is a pretty steep investment compared to maybe $1,000 or less to spin up an LLC in the U.S.
Hey, what about tax issues?
Yes, taxes. So that's another big point. So in Mexico specifically, we have IVA, which is value add tax, and a little bit different to how sales tax is handled in the US, for example. Value add tax is included in the price. And this is one mistake that a lot of sellers make when they come to Mexico, is that they just take their Amazon listing price in the US and just switch it over to peso in Mexico. And they're like, oh, I'm good. Nope, 16% of that sales price is actually going to taxes right there. So you got to make sure that you put that markup on your price point, and Amazon won't do that for you automatically. So you need to go through there and do that. Apart from that, you have, depending whether you have a person here in Mexico selling the product for you, or you have a business here in Mexico selling the product for you, you have what's called ISR. And ISR can vary from 1 to 3% if you are a business. And if you're a person, it's about 8 to 10%. The reason why Mexico does it this way is, a business is just more trustworthy. They're required to pay their taxes when they actually do their filings, versus a person, they don't trust as much. They need to pay their taxes sooner, and then they can claim money back in the filings later. Another thing for Mexico, if you don't have a tax ID here and you start selling, so for example, let's say you did FBM from the US to Mexico, dealing with the importation yourself, Amazon in Mexico will hold 20% of your sales price as income tax because you aren't registered in Mexico. So having the registration there is important, or if not, you need to make sure you're marking your price up again. So we're marking it up 16% plus 20% for the sales tax. So that's a thing to consider. Brazil, there's also a very high tax burden, mainly when it comes to imports. So products that are coming into Brazil with a value over $50 US have an automatic 50% tax on them, which is very substantial. And then there's a lot of taxes beyond that at the local levels, based on the state that you're in, based on the municipality that you're in, and based on what the products are. So these are all different taxes you might face. The total tax burden for bringing a product into Brazil can be up to 96% of the cost of the good. So it's substantial. So again, consumers in Brazil are also accustomed to higher prices because of that. But it also exists at the local level. So local manufacturers, local producers have about a 60% tax burden on the products that they produce in the country. So no matter what, the consumer is used to paying for more, and they already have that preference for a foreign brand, probably more so than a lot of other countries in the world. So it's not necessarily something to be worried about in the tax burden in Brazil, because at the end of the day, the consumer is paying that. It's just that you got to make sure that you're marking your products to the right price points to cover, to guarantee your margin, make sure you're not losing money there. Excuse me.
Okay. All right. Very good. Okay, Kels.
All right. Next question. Can you explain the process of using Mercado Libre compared to Amazon? And this is from Chuck.
Yeah, so I think the easiest explanation of this is when we think of selling on Amazon in the US or in any marketplace, The product itself, or the ASIN itself, is what Amazon is considering within search results. So, the reviews that product has, the sales history that product has, the length of time that product has, the conversion rate that product has, all of that's going into the ranking factors within Amazon. Mercado Libre is actually completely different. Instead of considering the individual products, they actually consider the seller. So if we consider, if we were to use an analogy to Amazon, it would be like the number of seller feedbacks you have and the number of good customer experiences that consumers have had with you as a seller on Mercado Libre is actually going to improve your ranking better than how the products sell themselves. So it's completely opposite from what we're used to on the Amazon platform. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that people coming into Mercado Libre for the first time struggle with is, I'm so used to pushing my product. I want my product to stand out. Well, Mercado Libre is all about, you as the seller standing out, you having, great reputation, great customer experience, great, seller feedback in a way. And that's actually going to make your products more visible on the platform.
Hey.
Okay, great. From Chad, my current product is measured in ounces. Should I change to the metric system?
So it depends. So I'm guessing if you're measuring in ounces, it's either a supplement or it's a food product. So the biggest thing you're going to deal with there is making sure that the label requirements match the COFE-PRIS requirements. So first, you're going to need to get COFE-PRIS approval. You're going to need to get your labels approved to make sure that they are correct for the Mexican marketplace or for the Brazilian marketplace, whichever one you'll be selling in. And on the labels themselves, you can put the metric adjustments for the imperial system. So you don't need to relabel the entire product. You can have, the differences between ounces or milliliters, for example, on that label that you're going to put on the product. You don't need to redo the entire packaging for the product itself.
Okay, great. Just a couple more questions from Claudia. Would it be better to sell things that are new to the locals in these countries or products that the locals are familiar with? For instance, should I sell a tortilla maker in Mexico or a panini maker?
I would that's actually a good question. In that instance, I would recommend a panini maker. There's a lot of, this is like one of the cultural things that we're talking about. I mean, products that are more that consumers here are more accustomed to, they have their local stores, they have their local markets. I mean, there's street markets like every other day here in Mexico where people are buying the stuff, or they're going, pretty much direct to the source. Like for example, I go to this isn't related to a physical product, but I go to the food distribution market and I buy my fruits, vegetables direct from the source. So literally I'm paying less than I would be paying in a supermarket. And people in Mexico are more accustomed to that. So I think it's actually better to sell products that they don't have as easily or that's harder for them to find here because it's something that they don't have another source to go to. Another thing I mentioned before was like the preference for foreign goods. So Mexico has about 57% of its e-commerce sales are cross-border, meaning that about 57% of the purchases of e-commerce goods they're buying in the US and then having it imported into Mexico. So there's a big preference for foreign goods, foreign brands. And I think that you should use to your advantage and not use products that consumers are necessarily familiar with here in Mexico or in Brazil.
Yeah, I think that's important too. I know with the soap, because it was an American-made soap, especially the Hawaiian scents, Japanese love them.
Yep.
Japanese. Now, if it was just soap, it wouldn't have sold as well, and the amount that we could sell it for was way higher. Like here, $10. In Japan, $24 to $36 for a bar.
Yeah, that's a good example. Another good example with Japan is actually, and this was actually a Harvard case study, is pet food. American pet food brands are extremely in high demand in Japan, so consumers are willing to pay a lot more in Japan for American pet food. And I think that same arbitrage opportunity exists in Mexico and Brazil. If you have a well-known brand, internationally or at least in the U.S., that's American made, that's calling out those features that are going to make it more attractive to the end consumer. I think that's to your advantage as a foreign seller in some of these marketplaces.
All right. Next.
Okay, a couple more questions. Claudia, unrelated question. Is working from home happening a lot in Mexico and Brazil since COVID happened?
Yes and no. I mean, like, for example, I can give you my own experience with this. So February 2020, we signed a 20-person office here in Mexico, and March hit, and then that office sat vacant for 11 months. So initially, a lot of people were working from home. Now things are starting to go back to the office. It's kind of a mix. Like we don't require our team to come to the office anymore. A lot of them do like working remotely, and our team is more spread out in Mexico now. So yeah, I would say that there's a mix. There's definitely more people going back to office now. It really depends on the company. A lot of US companies, a lot of foreign companies that are down here in Mexico really want their workers to be, on site, where a lot of tech companies and things like here in Guadalajara, there's a big presence of foreign tech companies. A lot of them allow their workers to work more remotely. So really depends on the industry, depends on the company. But it's probably similar to the US, where we see a mix of people going into the office and a mix of people working from home now.
Okay, awesome. All right, from Chuck, how difficult is it to get into Mercado Libre to sell?
It's not that difficult, actually. We actually have a partnership with Mercado Libre where we can help people get into the platform pretty quickly. There's two different options. Similar to the US has Narf for Amazon. Mercado Libre has global selling for Mercado Libre, where you can fulfill products from their warehouse in Miami to Latin America. So that's one option. You can do it, and if you're interested in that, we have all the connections to help you get that set up. If you just plan on selling products yourself on Mercado Libre, it's not that hard to set up yourself as a foreign brand. It's just that the global selling makes it a lot easier for people that don't want to invest the time and the money into learning how to do all the setup.
Okay, awesome. So I think that's it for questions. Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. Norm.
Okay, so why don't we give it one last chance to enter the Wheel of Kelsey today with hashtag Wheel of Kelsey, hashtag Mexico. And just before we do that, just to give people time to enter, let's go to our last shout out.
A big thank you to our sponsor, Startup Club, the largest club on Clubhouse with over 790,000 members and growing. They're one of the world's largest communities supporting the startup ecosystem, from founders to those wishing to work for a startup and everything in between. You can find them at www.startup.club for blogs, recordings, and a calendar of upcoming shows, and on the Clubhouse app. Just search Startup Club for daily shows 24/7. You can also now listen to their show, the Serial Entrepreneur Club podcast, on Apple and Spotify too. Stop by to connect, learn, and grow together.
Okay, why don't we head right over? Oh, we got Claudia in. I don't know if you got that, Kelsey. And then we can head over to Wheel of Kelsey.
All right, the Wheel of Kelsey. Here we go.
It's time for the Wheel of Kelsey.
All right. Thank you again for everyone who entered today's Wheel of Kelsey. We'll just make sure we got everyone. Okay. Here we'll shuffle it up and give it a spin. And we do this every single podcast. So come back on Friday if you're not today's winner. And it looks like the winner is Simon. So Simon, please email me k@lunchwithnorm.com. And we'll get you your consultation. Congratulations.
All right.
And awesome.
Okay, well, Mike, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Norm and Kelsey. I appreciate it. It's really fun talking to you, and hopefully I can be back here again sometime with some more Latin American insights.
Definitely. We got to talk outside of the show as well. Lots going on there.
For sure.
All right,
and,
Mike. Well, yep.
And Mike, how do we get a hold of you if we've got sellers interested in expanding into Latin America. Where can they go?
Yeah, the best way to do it is reach out to me directly, mike@amzadvisors.com, or you can go through our website, amzadvisors.com, and you can set up a call with myself or one of our team members there.
Perfect.
All right, perfect.
All right, sir. Well, we'll see you later. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, gentlemen. You do
All
as well.
right. Okay, everybody. I hope you enjoyed today's show about not going and sourcing in Mexico, but actually going and selling in Latin America. So that's a little change, a little change up, right, Kels?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, so thank you everyone for joining today's episode. Again, you can come back Friday to enter our next giveaway. And that's Friday's episode is one I'm pretty excited for, that I'm curious myself about. But it's Paul Barron is on. He's going to be talking about insert marketing, how to use your inserts, how to set that up, and what you should have or not have following terms of service. And it's going to be a good episode. You can RSVP for it on the YouTube channel already. We have a link there. Just search Norman Farrar or Lunch with Norm and find the YouTube account, and you'll be able to find the episode. And we have our webinar too, Thursday. That's tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern time with Vance Lee. If you missed it, yeah, we're going to be talking about how to sell $50,000 to $200,000 of pre-orders before spending $1 on inventory. And this is using Vance's crowdfunding technique. And it's a free training. All you have to do is sign up using the Google Sheet, and we'll send you the link when that happens. And it's going to be a great training. We want to do this more and more. If you want to make sure you don't miss any of these webinars or updates from the Lunch with Norm podcast, definitely recommend joining the Facebook group. That's Lunch with Norm, Amazon FBA, and eCommerce Collective. That way, that's where we post all the information. And you can sign up for our email newsletter as well to get all those updates too. And I think that's it. Again, if you're interested in Mike's services, you can check out amzadvisors.com or contact him, Mike at amzadvisors.com. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode.
All right. So join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for being part of the community. We could not do this without you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Lunch with Norm.